joining us right now from The Athletic. I got nothing. That's why I'm laughing. I got nothing other than to introduce our dear friend, somebody who is not only an award-winning journalist, but also apparently hates training staffs.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I didn't. That's not coming from me, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
They do.
They did. Sam Amick. Good morning, Sam.
What are we talking about here? What training staffs do I hate?
The shot you took at the training staff for letting De'Aaron Fox go out in that game and just questioning the morals and motives of, win now.
I guess. Sure.
All right, let me clean it up. Sam asked a question in an article last week, and I'm having fun with him because the comment section was just a wasteland, shockingly. And it was just simply with the 65 game limits and all the money and accolades involved. Is there another side to it? You have the Joel Embiids that are like, I played 3 games, I'm tired. And then you have the De'Aaron Foxes of the world that are like, my ankle is shredded cheese right now, but I want to go back out there. And is there going to be a, more of that where you have to say, it's the 3rd game of the year, 2nd game of the year, 4th game of the year. Maybe we should chill and make sure these guys are okay later on down the road. Did I sum that up about right, Sam?
Yeah, I think my disclaimer is that I felt bad writing it. No offense, not toward the Kings training staff, because truthfully, if you talk about blame, I mean, De'Aaron's the one who chose to play. And it wasn't necessarily just about his choice to play, and it was impressive and amazing, and they won that game. But the part where I felt guilty was in the media and fans were guilty of complaining about guys resting, complaining about this has got to change. We need guys to be out there. And then when you put a rule in place like they did and like they have, I found myself reevaluating the logic of the rule. The idea that, 17 games goes quickly if, major if God forbid you actually get hurt. You know what I mean? Like, so a guy like De'Aaron Fox, I'm just going to be hypothetical because I'll be honest. I find his situation a little confusing. We were told moderate ankle sprain. That typically is like in the neighborhood of a grade 2, which is quite some time. And then next thing you know, they're talking about maybe only missing a week. So that admittedly, I think I told you this when we talked on the phone, Dave, it's never great to write a column when you're not sharing all of the undercurrent of what's inspiring your opinion. Because what I didn't fully share was that I would be fairly surprised to see De'Aaron back after just 3 games. Now I could be wrong. You know what I mean? I could be wrong. But the premise of the piece is, okay, is a player like that, because he's doing the math in his head saying, well, I probably should, and these are just speculative numbers, I probably should miss 8 games with this injury, but I'm going to miss 3 because 8 gets me, that much closer, almost halfway to 17, at which point if I miss 18, I'm out, I can't be all NBA. I can't be in the MVP race, which, man, the first couple games, he looked like he could be in the race. So it was from De'Aaron and beyond. I just think it's going to create a different calculus for players and maybe not always the best decisions.
Yeah, Sam, on that, obviously this is something the league, coming from them, is very important to have players play as many games as possible. On the player side, I mean, look at Phoenix. I know there's guys that are injured, but we haven't seen that trio play a game yet together, and we're now 4 games in. What is the players' thought on the league's kind of, boundaries here of the 65 games?
Obviously it varies, Jay. You can't, it's not a uniform opinion. Probably the loudest dissent, not surprisingly, is Kings fan favorite Draymond Green, who, and I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially was like, y'all are going to love this rule until you see a garbage player getting first team all NBA, because and I really could see that where you have really good players having 64 games logged. Let's just pick some names, Giannis, Jokic, whatever. If they go down for a bit and you look at it and say, okay, fine, but man, he was amazing, but now he's not part of the awards, kind of cycle at all. I think there's some of that, but there's also understanding. I actually asked Klay Thompson about it recently. And that's a guy who, after his 2 years of being ravaged by injuries, had not played in back-to-backs and just missed a back-to-back the other day. Klay seemed to understand it from the league standpoint and the fan standpoint, and did feel like there was value in pushing guys to play. So by no means am I saying it's It's a complete miss as far as the rule. I'm mainly just kind of, preemptively previewing what I think is going to be some interesting situations throughout the course of the season.
I actually think it's well placed. I understand the rule, and I'm in favor of it in many cases because this resting stuff is getting out of hand, and people are taking advantage of it and skirting the rules. But Sam, I think you're 100% right. Our MVP arguments in the past, going way back was, well, Michael Jordan can't win it every year. So here's one for, Karl Malone or Hakeem or whatever. And then they developed into, well, Jokic can't win it every year. Here's one for Embiid. But maybe the MVP arguments of the future and other awards, but the MVP arguments of the future are, dude, this guy is averaging 37 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds a game, and his team's the 1 seed, but he got his ankle stepped on and cracked, and he missed 21 games, and now he's not eligible for the award. That will be a major sports bar topic if and when it ever happens, and I think it's more likely it will at some point.
No, I agree, and it's going to be a mixed bag of results because guess what? Last night, the Lakers and Clippers had a fantastic overtime game, and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George played in a back-to-back. You know what I mean? So, that's the kind of stuff the league envisioned. I believe it was a back-to-back. I think that's accurate. And that's what they were hoping for. And I actually just read a piece on our website about the in-season tournament, which is within this same kind of category where they're trying to inspire fans and players to be more excited about the regular season. So that's going to play a part. That obviously starts Friday. We'll see if teams move any differently as far as those games. I did laugh. I went to the Kings-Warriors game last night. Mike Brown was asked about the in-season tournament, and watching him just try to put on his best political face to say the right things about the tournament while essentially saying we're just trying to beat the Warriors tonight, and literally have not thought any farther than that. But you can tell that there's an internal memos flowing saying, please be excited about the in-season tournament.
Right.
And because he made a passing reference to and I shouldn't paraphrase.
No, go ahead. It's fine. No one's listening.
He just, it's he might as well have been I hear there's a cup involved. I like cups.
Have they decided on what is it a ring? Is it a shirt? Is it a brooch? Is it just a stupid trophy?
It's a brooch, Dave. It's
a championship brooch.
It's a Katie Christensen brooch for Halloween costume.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe we'll get into it at some point. It's just, the problem is that they're trying to take this world concept and they're not applying it to the world. We're in for example, in the English Premier League, we'll just use the easiest one. Excuse me, English Premier.
You're an expert now. Let's hear it.
Yeah, that's true. You've got the top teams from the Premier League, and they're playing the top teams from the other European leagues, and there's your Champions League. The top ones from last year playing this year, and you get a European champion. Even the FA Cup. The FA Cup, you've got Premier League teams playing Division I teams, playing English League Championship teams. My point is, you're seeing matchups that don't just go to how good is this team, but it also, the leagues themselves have pride on the line. The countries have pride on the line, which is why we get into swimming and track and field once every 4 years, because they put a gold medal around you. The NBA is taking this concept, but in my opinion, Sam, they're taking the most vital part of the concept, which is we already see Denver play the Kings. We already see Memphis play the Rockets or whatever the hell it is. This would have been, again, a great opportunity perhaps to, let's take this break and let's play the Euro League. Let's play the Spanish League. Let's play the whatever league. It just seems like they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Listen, I don't have a lot of soccer insight, so I'm stealing this from Richard Sutcliffe. Had the piece on our website today that actually did educate me a bit. So the pushback that I'll steal from Richard is that, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the FA Cup in particular, in the later rounds, he made the point that the later rounds typically are just the elite teams, that while it's a wide open thing with all kinds of leagues earlier, later rounds are the elite teams. Although, my God, you talk about apples and oranges. 30 teams competing in this tournament for the NBA. Allegedly 732. It was this massive number of teams. Obviously not that many, but it does seem to be loosely tied to that. The other thing is because you don't have any history, and maybe it takes a couple years, maybe it catches on. People like Mike Brown it doesn't land. You know what I mean? It doesn't inspire them. So we'll see. I think they will tweak it year over year. I believe it is a trophy, only stealing that from the commercial they put out, which was, I thought, pretty well done. The Ocean's 11 style.
Yes.
Everybody's got Draymond is protecting the trophy in the security guard outfit. So I get it, and we'll see. I'm, first world problems, but in December, I like to help with Christmas shopping and get ready for the holidays. Now I'm going to Vegas for a few days. Yes.
Vegas in the summer and now in the winter.
I know.
Have you taken one of the redheads with you yet on any of these NBA trips?
NBA trips.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Have you taken them on the road with you yet?
Locally last week.
They used to when they were little guys. It's a little tougher now.
Yeah.
Although, did you not to totally get too far afield? Did I share with you my youngest Halloween costume?
No.
Oh wow,
which you usually do. We usually do exchange Halloween photos. I have not seen this yet.
Perfect audience for the YouTubers. I'm going to try to pull it up here. So he is all about the Beam Team now, and he pushes back because somebody accused him of becoming a bandwagon Kings fan. And he's like, no, I just didn't really care about basketball, and now I do. So it's like a clean slate. So he's on the Kings now. His brother has been more of a Warriors fan, but years ago I bought him a Kevin Durant jersey, one of those special Bay Warriors jerseys.
Yeah.
And I'll describe it for the listening audience. This is the picture. He put his jersey on and made a sign for the back. Can you see that?
Let's see. Okay, I see. I see the he's got
bandwagon.
He's got the Warriors jersey on and bandwagon on the back.
Great.
That is a phenomenal costume right there. Look at that. I'm going to set you up with a question, Sam, and I'm going to let you choose whether or not to answer it based on the conversation we had earlier this week that I'm going to try to bring on air. But I know I should be careful here. Are you going through the thing with your kids right now where, I don't know, have they ever talked trash back to you now or about your job?
What am I forgetting that we talked about off air?
We were talking about backpacks.
Oh, yes. That's right. Yeah, I mean,
I left it open. You don't have to grab that.
Yeah, no, I'm not going down that road. But the younger one does.
A little bit.
He's more hip to kind of the content world. He stumbled on our report the other day where Shams and I had the De'Aaron Fox intel. He does think it's funny. The G-rated version is that he thinks it's funny to tell me that I'm carrying Shams's water. Damn, bro.
Harsh.
Seriously.
Wow.
His son's a big fan of Shams.
I get it.
Yeah, you're right too.
You do the same thing, kind of.
I've been here doing this, son.
Sam, you mentioned that you went last night to the game, Kings Warriors. What was your I don't know, what did you kind of learn from each side, maybe post game, or just some of your anecdotes that you got for seemingly Kings Warriors game 900 that these two teams have played against one another?
First of all, Jay, don't be so presumptuous. Post game would indicate that I was there for the entire game.
Oh, good point.
I have gotten it. Listen, it's a long season. There's times when I go say hello to people pregame and learn a few things along the way and then watch some of the game. But it's a long drive down there. I had to get up and visit with you guys. I got a podcast coming up, so there's my excuse. So I left at halftime, although I had the game on in the car going home. There was a little bit of both teams joking about way, good to see you again. Been a while, there's a lot of that. I give the Kings credit for obviously playing really well. And I wasn't really surprised. Part of the reason I chose to go down and watch at least some of it was curiosity about the Kings side, but also did think that, you can't kind of, feel like you have a deep team and talk about your depth and talk about your talent. And then when a player like Fox goes down, act like it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to lose. Not that the Kings did that, but a lot of the Kings conversation leading into that game, from Dave was that. Okay.
Yeah.
But they balled out. Davion Mitchell, excuse me, Davion, has played well as a starter in the past when he was filling in. Kevin Huerter, I don't know the final line, but I give Kevin credit. I think 9 boards, 10 boards.
Yeah, 9 boards.
They were competing and playing some defense. But my God, I mean, how many ways can the Warriors just absolutely rip their hearts out? And I'm watching the last possession. Naturally I had pulled over and was being safe. I would never look at the phone while I was driving. But the last possession, you're going, oh, okay, they got the ball out of Steph's hands. Like, man, I don't know if Steph's getting that ball back. Like, that mission accomplished, right? And then here comes Clay cutting across the lane and hitting the jumper. So, that part, I'm sure they were pretty frustrated post-game. But I think it bodes well for however long they play without De'Aaron. They should, now go forward knowing you can stack up some W's. I think they were 4-5 without him last season. And listen, in this West where it's going to be brutal from beginning to end, they just cannot afford to go on some 3, 4, 5 game losing streak, even with him out.
Well, hopping around the NBA real quick, Sam, you mentioned the West and how tough it is. We were just talking before you came on about the Grizzlies. Obviously, John Morant's out, but we've talked before that Grizzlies managed to have a pretty good record without Ja in the past. Steven Adams out. That's obviously huge. You swap Dylan Brooks for Marcus Smart, which I thought was and still do think it's a positive. It's early. What the hell is going on with Memphis?
Admittedly, I mean, I've looked at some of the numbers. I've seen what's happened. I haven't watched them with a scout's eye, but yeah, it's surprising. You know what I mean? Like, they had been good without Ja. Even jokes aside, like, listen, Dylan Brooks is a very divisive player for obvious reasons, but it's hard not to look at what has changed and say, man, all right. I mean, maybe it's the spirit, maybe I don't know what it is. I like the Marcus Smart move a lot. Change with new players often takes a little while. Maybe that's playing a part. Jaren Jackson has not been very good given kind of who he is. So it's a bad look. And I mean, again, because the West is so tough, it's like the Lakers last year famously start, I think 2-10, something in that neighborhood, and they did survive. So it's possible, right? But you can't go down that road too far. And as far as, I mean, shoot, our guy, Kings fan favorite, John Hollinger and friend and colleague, who I love to death, does a great job. But, and we all missed the mark. But he had, at times, he had the Grizzlies win in the West, even with the Ja suspension.
Wow. So he could be wrong for a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. To be determined.
To be determined.
Yeah. To be determined.
To be determined.
I mean, hold on. Since you're going to do your little victory lap, buddy.
What victory lap?
Yeah, he also, might have highlighted the Kings' incredible health last year. So how's that going for you?
Yeah, you tell your boy Hollinger, okay, incredible health, except our freaking MVP candidate had a broken hand all year, and De'Aaron Fox had a broken hand in the playoffs, and Keegan Murray missed. The whole narrative, we had great health, which we did, no doubt about it. Sorry that we're healthy, but also filled with a team full of guys. Whereas Joel Embiid, walks a mile and he's got to rest for 4 games. And Domantas Sabonis his hand is falling off of his wrist, and he decides to play through it in what ended up being a contract year. I mean, I'm just saying there's nuance.
No, there is, for sure.
I wasn't that serious, by the way. You didn't have to give me a serious answer. He's probably right.
You can't beat up on athletic people, man. I'm loyal.
He's going to protect his guys.
That's right.
We know James Harden. I don't think it was your guy, but it finally happened, Sam. The trade is finally done. We've been waiting. Your thoughts on kind of how it ended and really what the Sixers got in return and what the Clippers are getting.
Yeah, I mean, finally happened. Obviously, we knew this is where he wanted to go basketball-wise. I'm very curious to see it unfold. I'm going to have a story tomorrow. One of those that's always kind of fun where it's scouts giving their anonymous perspective on this particular topic. Can James Harden fit in with the Clippers? Got opinions on both sides, and which I was happy about because it makes for a more interesting read. But, I think it also captured the reality of it, which is it's hard to handicap how it's going to look, whether it's going to work. You look at that Clippers game last night. Kawhi Leonard was Kawhi Leonard. Paul George was Paul George. Westbrook had a good game. They still lose in overtime. In a vacuum, small sample size, you kind of go, all right, I guess they could use a little more firepower. But the scouts, one of the guys that was cynical about the move or skeptical, talked about the Russell Westbrook, James Harden fit, and Russ, I think, is going to have to come off the bench, but that's not clear. If he doesn't, then how in the hell does that work? Because you got, two very ball dominant guys and then two other guys who actually have become pretty good playmakers, like literally 4 playmakers. There is a threshold where there's too many playmakers on the floor. So a lot of questions. James does supposedly sound as if he's, buying in from a sacrifice standpoint and, doing whatever they need to do for them to win the whole thing. That doesn't really reconcile very easily with some of the intel coming out of last summer when his desire to go to Houston, I had somebody tell me this, and this is kind of out there already, had been to get back to James Harden basketball where you average 30 and you are a scoring first point guard. That is not what the Clippers need. So, only James can speak for himself, and we'll see how he chooses to play. So for them, I think to be determined, Philly, it's all about the next step. I wrote this the other day. They're now well positioned to go get another star player. And they're also going to have a ton of cap room this summer. They got to make sure the big fella doesn't ask out himself. And so there's more work to do on the Philly side, but they actually look pretty good so far. So I think they're going to be competitive in the East.
Sam Amick with us. Last thing for you. It's no secret. I don't like James Harden's game. I'm very outspoken when it comes to James. But I do, as a thought exercise, Sam, I do try to be fair with everything. And I try to sometimes, especially when I feel really strongly about one thing, I try to look at the other way. So I'm going to, you play prosecutor and defense attorney in your head. I want to throw at you a thought I had last night that made me nauseous, but I want you to push back. Is it possible that in history's gaze, we're going to look back at James Harden as the Curt Flood of our generation? Let me explain if you don't know who Curt Flood is. Curt Flood was the barrier breaker when it came to free agency in baseball. Is it possible that James is merely a victim of standards and history? And in the end, if you were to sit him down and he had a lie detector machine on him, he'd say, I've made this much money, which is a ton, and as NBA players, we are property. We are drafted, i.e. forced to go to a team. We are then traded, i.e. forced to go to a different team. These teams show us little to no loyalty whatsoever. And, oh, by the way, unlike you, Dave, or you, Jason, or you, Sam, if you go to work for a certain company and they change everything else around you, you don't have the ability to quit your job and go work at another place. Imagine that. Is it possible that James is simply bucking the trends and saying, I'm going to play where I want. I'm going to play where I'm comfortable. I'm going to do everything I can to make myself less a piece of property and more a businessman, a CEO in charge of his own empire here. And oh, by the way, you can doubt me all you want, but I've made $500 million and I've gotten to play with some of the best players in the game. Is there a chance, a world that 20, 30 years from now, history is going to look back on this Harden situation differently?
I feel like you just answered your question with that last noise.
Okay.
I just don't see, in a vacuum, I already used that phrase, but you can argue that he is winning here, but I don't think there's any sort of virtuous takeaway that applies to other players because other players are not typically going to be willing to go to the great lengths he had to go in order for these things to happen. And also along the way, if you talk about, I know it's a cliche word, but legacy, things of that nature, he did not actually accomplish very much basketball wise during a stretch in which he was very capable of being an elite player. So the truth is you could make a fairly strong argument that if he had stayed put in Houston, rode it out a little longer, waited for the young bucks to come through in the draft, maybe it looks different, a little cleaner, and he's the king of Houston forever. Instead, it's messiness over a 3-year stretch in which we all kind of forgot how great the guy was at basketball.
He's trash. I completely agree. Thank you. Thank you for helping me out there. I forced myself to think that way, and I appreciate you pushing back. Sam Amick of The Athletic.
I will say this, kid. Sorry, quickly.
Oh, you're fine.
He can salvage it here. This Clippers thing, it can be a nice little something at the end. It really can. Like, I'm just saying, it's if it ends with he got to LA and then he was up as a free agent and no one paid for him and the Clippers went out in the first round, that's it. If they win a championship, given the history of the Clippers, he'll get a lot of love for that.
Okay, I'll ask you the same question we bantered around here yesterday. Landon and Ryder's college funds are up for grabs. You have a chance to double them or lose them all, but you have to make the bet. I'm going to put the over-under this year at 31.5 games that Russ and Paul and Kawhi and James play together. Excuse me, 21.5 games is I think what it was. 21.5 games that they all four play together this year. Are you going over or under with your kids' college fund?
I'll go over.
Okay.
Confidence.
Okay. Well, that is Sam Amick, who I think is just as good, by the way, as Shams Charania and the rest of the athletic staff and all of those folks over there that do such a wonderful job, including Matt Barrows, who joins us each and every Monday as well. Sam, we always appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Be good.
Okay, take care. That is Sam. We're late for a break. When we come back, 4 down territory, including football, as Week 9 opens tonight. We'll do that next. Sactown Sports.
Check out